then we will get started, and I will be able to see how many people are completing the survey as we continue. Of course, I'm having technical difficulties. All right, ladies, the survey link is in the chat. Please take a couple of minutes to tell us about where you are financially and how we can better customize these sessions to suit your needs. Denise, you're the only one I can see with the camera on. Are you able to access the survey? Great, thank you. The survey doesn't ask any personal details. It doesn't even ask you for your email address. So I'd really appreciate it if you could complete it. Thank you. I'm waiting for a few more responses and then we will continue. All right, ladies, let's get started. So I thought a good place for us to start, especially since this is a Saturday morning, and I grew up listening to music and helping clean the house on Saturday mornings. So I thought we would start out with a little bit of trivia about songs that talked about money. So here is the first song, and you can let us know in the chat if you know which song this is or maybe who the artist is. Do we have any guesses in the chat, Hannah?
Tanya guessed money, 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 and Brenda guessed the OJs for the love of money.
Right, that's right. Okay, here's our second song. This may be a little tougher to figure out. Thanks, Hannah. I'm thinking the next one will be pretty easy. This one might be a bit of a challenge. I'll give you a hint that it's sung by a duo. We have any guesses in the chat?
No guesses yet.
Okay. Give you another minute or so, and then we'll move on. Rich Girl by Hall & Oates. Here's the last one. I'm thinking we may have a few people in here who know what song these lyrics go to. Any guesses?
Denise guessed She Works Hard for the Money by Donna Summer.
Correct. Well, thank you for playing along. I found these songs and I thought, this is a good way to start off a discussion about money. And I'm not sure how many of you know this, but she was inspired to write this song after attending a party, a Grammys after party. And she bumped into a restroom attendant, Onetta Johnson, who was dozing off in front of a TV. And that's how all of that came about. And here in this picture that I'm showing you, Onetta Johnson is the lady over her shoulder. She also made an appearance in that music video. So I really appreciate you playing along, ladies. Of course, that last song was no coincidence. It was inspired by an encounter with a hardworking woman. And this morning, you are sharing time with other hardworking women. We work hard for our money, and sometimes we even work hard for no money. We tend to be perpetual caregivers. And historically, in the case of Black women, from the time that we were brought here, we were taking care of other people's families. Later, that evolved into our families, where the oldest daughter was commonly in charge of younger siblings, household chores, and homework support. Oftentimes, our caregiving can expand beyond our own households to elderly neighbors or children of family members. Last year, this time, I spent an unusual amount of time reaching out to family and friends to ensure that they had toilet paper and bleach and Lysol and were getting around well and knew what the senior hours were at the various stores that they like to shop. Checking in with friends who once had pretty busy social schedules, but now found themselves confined to their homes with their with their partners and their children and pets nearly 24 hours a day. It was a huge shift for many of us. Even before COVID, we still tend to be the core of our communities. We serve in service organizations. We serve with Girl Scouts, student boards at schools, educational boards. We're affiliated with ministries. We just always show up. The very nature of caregiving, though, is that the majority of the resources, our time and our energy and our money, they tend to go toward the objects of our care. And although that's admirable, we oftentimes act in that capacity to our own detriment. I conducted some research that shed light on the financial state of Blacks in the US. Please keep in mind that this data was collected prior to COVID, and it was collected over the 3 or 4 years before then. As I review these stats, I would like for you to take the time to consider how they may apply to you and those that you know. So you can see these two charts here. The top one, the percentage of the people who were surveyed reporting that they were doing okay financially. What does that even mean? When a person tells you that they're doing okay financially, how do you interpret that data? Is that how you describe yourself? Do we indicate that to mean that all of our bills are paid on time? Most of them are paid on time? Does it mean that we have money remaining in our account after all of our bills are paid? I just found that to be a very interesting way of talking about one's finances. And you can see that while we report ourselves as doing okay financially, the median household income gap is rather large. So it's interesting how one group making so much less than the other group still indicates that for the most part, about 80% of them, when compared to the other group, they feel like they're doing okay financially. Even while earning 40% less, our perception of how we're doing is similar. This talks about work and debt. So 42% of Blacks reported that they have a side hustle in addition to their full-time job. However, 45% feel as if they are in too much debt compared to the 35% of the whites who were surveyed, with 28% of them also engaging in a side hustle. So I'm wondering if that additional income is really helping at all. How are we using that money? Are we saving it, or are we splurging on the money that we bring in from our side hustle? Home ownership rates. You can see the gap between Black home ownership and white home ownership is pretty large there. Black home ownership was significantly impacted by the Great Recession. And a few years ago, the ACLU reported that by 2031, which is in just 10 years, if you can believe that, the wealth of the median Black household could be reduced by as much as $98,000. That's nearly $100,000 lost in wealth due to losing equity in homes during the Great Recession. So we can see that when we are hit with financial setbacks, they tend to linger. And then, even having said all of that, this next chart indicates that nearly half indicate that they've either been late on a mortgage payment within the past year, or they predict that they will be late on a mortgage payment. And that's over 3 times as many as whites who have experienced challenges with paying their mortgage within the last year. Student loan debt. So many people that I know who attended college had or still has some form of student loan debt. It would be interesting here to do a deep dive into the age ranges that this data represents, because it's not that uncommon for people in their 20s and 30s to carry some student loan debt. But as we age and we try to reach other milestones, such as purchasing a home or taking some epic vacation, student loan debt can really inhibit us to achieving some of those milestones and keep us from growing wealth. And again, the likelihood of being late on the student loan payment, 60%, nearly. That is, that's more than half. That's something that we really need to address as a community in terms of helping students know about finance and education. And then once you do incur that debt, setting up a strategy to pay it back and pay it back as quickly as possible. I found this information very interesting. Engagement in expensive credit card behaviors. And I wonder if people even realize that how they use their credit cards is significant. So here, the behaviors talk about paying only the minimum, incurring late fees, over limit fees, taking advances. These costs quickly can accumulate and eat away at our ability to save and reduce our debt burden. And it impacts our credit worthiness, which of course results in a lower credit score. Now, this is really where it begins to get worrisome. After all, this series is sponsored by AARP, which is an organization that represents people who are retired or people who wish to be retired at some point. I am a member of AARP and I work full-time with the hope of being able to retire at some point. So no retirement savings, 36% versus 21%. Those people under age 30 typically believe that their savings are on track for retirement if they have at least $10,000 set aside, just to give you some context for age ranges. People 45 to 59 usually believe that their retirement savings are on track if they have at least $250,000 saved. I will repeat that. If you're between 45 and 59, typically, if you have $250,000 saved, you believe that your retirement savings are on track. Now, that may be a shock to many of us. And some of us say, okay, I started a little late. I had to take a break from work for various reasons. I'll just work later. I'll get a side hustle. I will work longer than Social Security says that is my earliest opportunity to retire and draw those funds. While that is a plan, and it's always good to have a strategy or two for backup, life tends to happen. And people end up retiring earlier than they had anticipated for various reasons. As you can see, some of these reasons have to do with job satisfaction, not enjoying the work, or being forced to retire for lack of available work. That actually happened to my stepfather. Gosh, that was probably nearly 20 years ago at this point, where he was forced to retire when his company went through a reduction in force, and he was significantly older at that point. And I think his perception was, well, I'll just find another job. And of course, when large corporations do a reduction in force, they tend to onboard resources to help their employees get employment other places. But in a lot of those cases, you won't get paid comparable money. You might have to commute somewhere that is, much further away from home. There are lots of different variables that make those options not really ones that you want to actually take up on. And so he ultimately just retired. However, he had already retired from the military. So he had already had military income. And so he just decided to stop looking for work and retired. Then, of course, there are health and family responsibilities, which also impact our ability to work as long as we would like, or even the hours that we would like, or the days that we would like. So when we think about our financial planning and planning for the future, these are all the types of things that I would like for us to keep in mind as we move forward. So our final set of statistics around money are pretty sobering. So this is about net worth. In 2016, the net worth of the average African American was $17,600. And you can see that is a tenth of what the study revealed about white families. Well, not even families, white individuals. This data is for individuals, not families. And then in some cases, people had zero or negative net worth, which basically means you are what we typically refer to as flat broke or in debt. So I'm going to stop sharing right now and turn on my camera and ask you all, how do you feel about the data that I shared? And you definitely, if you want to put something in the chat, you can do that. If you have your camera on, you can raise your hand and we can allow you to speak. I would like to know if there were any surprises, anything shocking, anything that you learned. I don't see anything in the chat. Do you, Hannah?
Yeah, people are saying that they're, it's really sobering and upsetting data that you presented.
Yeah, I'm
find it very relatable, but it's hard to hear.
All right. Wow, I heard someone else say they were forced into retirement. Yeah, my stepfather, having been an executive at a really large company and having been retired military, it took a hit to his ego that my mother and I, we were really not prepared for at all. So, and there was some adjustment. And after a while, he was always had been active. He was active in his church and he had been active tutoring students preparation for GED. So it really just took him some time, which is not uncommon, for him to stop identifying himself along with that job and that role, and then giving himself more credit for what he was providing to his community. And so he just started focusing on that. And I believe he even did a stint as a substitute teacher at a middle school, which was very surprising to me and my mom. But sometimes these provide us with an opportunity to give ourselves an internal assessment and see where our skills will be valued. And then we sort of just move on from there. Yes, I believe that is the case, Nicole. I agree with you. Thank you very much for being so engaged. I really appreciate your feedback. So I will continue my presentation from here. Go back to sharing my screen. As soon as I figure out how to do that. So the logical next question is why, right? Why would there be such great disparities between Blacks and whites? And of course, we know what some institutional reasons are for that, systemic racism, Jim Crow, just a history of poor relations, and just what we would like to call mutual respect for between other groups and a lot of the Blacks in this country. But researchers say it is due to lower personal financial functional knowledge. Well, what does that even mean, right? So basically, that means we can have money, we can have access to money, we can have access to debt, but knowing how to leverage our money and our debt strategically is what's holding us back. But of course, where would we have even received that knowledge? It's not like we have decades of having Black people in a position to share that knowledge, to have even acquired enough of wealth to be able to share that knowledge with other people. Again, who would teach us? Personal finance isn't really taught officially within educational environment. And in a lot of cases, when people do take the time to give you a presentation or give you a nugget or two, in return, they want your business. Who are our personal finance mentors? Do we have personal finance mentors? If we do, I would like for you to share them in the chat. Do we have any in the chat? So for the iPhone user who's asking about other statistics, this series was initially designed for Black women. And I believe in the description that was sent, that is indicated. However, I did suspect that everyone would not read those details or catch those details. So I'm sorry if you're disappointed, but that's the data that I have researched was intentionally for Black women. Wow, good for you, Denise, your parents teaching you how to save. So what I find very interesting about those numbers that I shared with you is that in many cases, it talked about how people felt about their financial situation. And how we feel about our financial situation isn't always an accurate representative of it. I don't know if you've ever gone to a doctor and the doctor asked you how you felt and you told them how you felt. And then when they ran your labs and they brought them back, they told you that, you know, what your health indicators told them. And then that didn't necessarily line up with the way that you actually felt. So definitely, I know with the women are about how we feel a lot of times. And what I want us to start understanding is that when it comes to money, it behooves us to separate the facts from how we feel. We already know that there are so many things that work against us. So for instance, we're going to do a little informal poll here. If you would start a road trip with a quarter tank of gas, please place a Q in the chat. I think I figured out how to have the chat up and my presentation going. There's a lot going on my screen right now.
Erica, ask that question one more time. I didn't catch it.
Okay, I was just about to. If you would start a road trip with a quarter tank of gas, place a Q in the chat. If you would start a road trip with a half tank of gas, place an H in the chat. Okay, it looks like I've only got one response in the chat. Again, if you could get to your chat really quickly and respond, I'd appreciate it. Again, we design these to be interactive. I like the way Tanya jumped the shark. So apparently Tanya would only start a road trip with a full tank of gas. Okay, yeah, and it's about perspective, right? So Cynthia said, okay, yeah, her first stop in the road trip would be the gas station, right? So I say this, I ask this question to indicate to you what our perception is of how much we need to get to the next step. Some people, I'm the type of person, if I'm doing a road trip, I fill up the night before, I pack up my car the night before, have everything in the garage. I have a cooler open downstairs by the freezer, so I can just dump ice into the cooler, put snacks into the cooler. I could get out of my bed and be on the road in half-hour tops, because the night before a trip, I'm not sleeping well anyway. So this is an indication of how we feel about resources. okay, I need to have all my resources in place the night before, or I need to have all my resources in place before I hit the road. Or some people say, oh, well, no, I can hit the road, and then at the first gas station, I can fill up. This is the way we approach problem solving. So we all have different ways. So when it comes to even financial planning, there is no right way. You definitely need to find a way that works best for you. Okay, Olga and I are on the same page. We just want to get up and hit the road. And that's my attitude is I want to get up and hit the road before everybody else wakes up and gets on the road. So I'm not sure how many of us are, why don't I ask this question? So how many ladies here are, I'm assuming I see some iPhone people, so maybe we aren't all ladies. How many people here are in the state of Arizona? You can put your state, just put your state in the chat. So Denise is from Arizona. Okay, great. This is great. Oh, Colorado. I want to go to Colorado. Beautiful. Great, great, ladies. Okay, so I'm going to share some statistics about women's earnings in Arizona. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Arizona Foundation for Women. I'm going to share their website. So here's a website for the Arizona Foundation for Women. Every 3 or 4 years, they produce reports about the lives of women in the state of Arizona. And so I have some data that I would like to share with you regarding their 2020 report. Stuff that I think that you would find rather interesting. Pulling up that report. So here is some of that cross-sectional information. So days of work to equal pay for Arizona women here. So equal pay day is the date that women have to work to in the following year to earn what the average man has earned in the previous year. And so for white women, they have to work until March 19th, totally ridiculous. Asian women, the same date. African-American women, June, I'm sorry, this is the year, not the date, into June, and then Latinas into October. That's, to me, is unconscionable, but it's a reality in the state of Arizona based on the income data that they found in their study. Also, oops, I'm sorry. This little blurb here talks about the global gender gap that was published in 2017. The US, us and all of our advancements, 49th out of 144 countries for women's equality. And again, you see here what a white man earns in Arizona, at least in April 2017. And then you can compare that across women and how much women earn. And highlighted in the next paragraph is at the crux of why I do this. This impacts families, especially if the families are led by women and women are the primary breadwinners. Child care, elder care, everything we use our money on to sustain a family, the pink tax, all of that comes out of the limited resources that we have. And then they provided this nice infographic. I'm clicking. that indicates to the left. So women with our limited income, we pay a lot for hair products, and then there's makeup and foundation garments and all these other things that, nails. We're expected to pay for all of that at a significantly reduced salary. What do you think of that, ladies? What do you think of those stats for the great state of Arizona? So this series is designed to help us assess where we are financially. And I consider it as a form of a SWOT analysis. Do we all know what a SWOT analysis is? SWOT. Nicole, would you like to come off of mute and ask your question in terms of, is there a reason why?
Hi, hello, everybody. Yeah, in looking at your stats, I'm just shocked. But I'm a member of a Native American community in Arizona, so your earlier stats didn't surprise me. And actually, Native women also face these same challenges. And I was just kind of wondering, as you're showing that, and I didn't know about that forum, the website, but I do want to check it out. Is there a reason why? African American and Hispanic women would make less than a white man? I mean, what are some of the reasons? Did it say? I was trying to look on some of the article that you were showing.
Well, that report can be picked up from the Arizona Foundation for Women's website, but yeah, it's racism and sexism.
I'm surprised. I guess I shouldn't be, but I'm surprised at that. And I know that's been going on for some time. Yes, many years. And you're absolutely right regarding the resources of what is expected to pay in the family with significantly less.
Yes, I see Denise nodding in agreement. Denise, would you like to add anything? Okay. She just likes to nod in agreement. I appreciate your support. So Mrs. Holt, representing AARP, spelled out what a SWOT analysis is, and it is used in strategic planning to discuss strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's exactly how I want us to approach our finances. Corporations, nonprofit organizations, so many organizations use SWOT analyses annually to find out how to really leverage their strengths and their opportunities and how to mitigate their weaknesses and the threats. And I think that we need to be that strategic when we talk about our finances, especially as we enter our 50s and 60s and prepare for life outside of the workforce, or at least to shift our working hours. I think initially I would probably like to go from working 40 hours a week to maybe 30, 32 hours a week, and then change the type of work that I do, which will likely not be as lucrative as my current field, but just to be able to have those options. My mother moved here about 18 months ago, so I would like to be able to spend time with her and take her to doctor's appointments and things of that nature. And these are things that women have been doing already, but it has been costing us so much to do that because we approach our finances too often as an afterthought. And the reality is that the majority of us never receive any formal personal financial education. We pick up a nugget or two from TV, we'll listen to Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman. Some of us may have even gone so far as to buy a book or commit to a class. But in terms of being diligent about looking at our savings. Oh, is that enough? How do I know if it's enough? Or my retirement funds. I haven't made any adjustments to those over the last 3 or 4 years. Should I? And how should I adjust them? I just want us to keep these types of things at the forefront of our minds because it's significant and it could make a huge impact to the resources we have later as we enter into retirement. In the chat, I would like for the ladies to indicate if they have received a Social Security statement recently for the ones who are not retired. So several years ago, the Social Security Administration used to send you out a statement around your birthday to indicate how much you are predicted to earn doing Social Security. Jody says she has received one. How did you receive it, Jody? Did it come in the mail?
Yes, it came in the mail, Erica. Thank you. And I'm aware of the website, so I check it periodically.
Right. When was the last time you received one in the mail?
I just had a birthday, so I received one, maybe a month or so ago.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I stopped receiving them in the mail and I had to go into the website to get that information. Right. So Suzanne said, no, not for a couple of years.
Maybe I'm wrong. And then that's it. I probably just got on the website.
No. Well, and it could have to do with how close you are to retirement, because a lot of the times that has to do with it. So
I turned 60, so maybe that's why.
Oh, okay. Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, because I get emails from them, I think, too.
Yeah. If you sign up to be notified, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have done is, because it used to come every year around my birthday. So now every year around my birthday, I've actually put a reminder on my calendar to go to the website to check it and to download that statement and file it in my file cabinet. I do save some files electronically. Lots of stuff I save on paper and place it in the family safe, just in case something goes awry. All right, ladies, I really appreciate your engagement, and we are about 10 minutes away from wrapping up. So I'm going to share with you, and I appreciate your patience. This is my first time having to navigate through websites and downloads, and Zoom is fun, but it's not necessarily always intuitive for me. So I'm going to continue with my presentation, and we will wrap up. So now that you've heard some of those stats, and again, a lot of those were tailored toward Black women, but women in general are earning about 3/4 of what men are. And the data says that women typically are not assertive investors. And so even if we are pretty good at saving, our savings aren't growing at the rate of inflation. And of course, your savings are impacted by how much you earn. You can't save more money than you earn, and you can't save more than the disposable income to which you have access. So we are going to continue this series with modules. The next one will be called Take an Inventory. And I'm going to just let you read along here about what we're going to introduce in these modules. We'll definitely be looking into data specifically around Arizonans, talking about financial literacy. A lot of people don't really understand what that term is, so I would like to do a deep dive on that for people, talk about what drives our financial habits and our spending and how we can be proactive about that, and savings gaps and all types of psychology that impacts our ability to stay committed to a financial plan. Definitely cannot talk to any type of American audience without talking about debt and how to really manage debt as early as you can and with a disciplined strategy. Once we get midway, we'll do a review of some of these topics. We'll pick out news items that may be relevant to what we're talking about here. And I will also ask the participants if they have any questions about particular things, or if they want me to go back and to review anything that was discussed previously for some more clarity or get some more detail. I'm more than happy to do that. And of course, talking about setting us up for success going forward. Well, this is an AARP sponsored event, so we have to talk about retirement and getting us through retirement planning and what that means. What is retirement planning? Talk about the retirement gap, the golden years. Talk about what wealth is and what it means, and what's an investment and what's a hobby and what's a business. And also some nuggets that aren't necessarily spelled out here in the modules. I'll also be discussing negotiation tips. A lot of women don't negotiate. I love to negotiate and haggle when it makes sense. We tend to shy away from that. Some see it, as uncouth, as not feminine. But there's so many women who enjoy couponing. So I know we like to get a good bargain or a deal, right? So let's talk about getting a bargain or a deal that can save us, 3 to 4 figures. And also take the time to explain to you why you are more likely to walk away with a bargain when you work with a smaller local company than if you work with a national chain. I will be discussing affordability and what that really means, and how it's really an individual term. And if something is affordable for you and your sister, it's not necessarily affordable for your brother or vice versa. And we're going to talk about, of course, how much debt costs us in dollars and in time. I'm a firm believer that if we view our debt in minutes, it could possibly help us commit to a strategy to eliminate it. And I would be remiss, I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can turn on my camera, if I did not find out how many AARP members are here with us. So if you are an AARP member, let us know in the chat. Nicole, okay. So if you are an AARP member, as I am, you likely received the AARP bulletin. And the AARP bulletin always has a Your Money section. This issue right here even tells you how to strategically shop at Walmart. Like, who couldn't use that? I know there's some people who feel strongly about shopping at Walmart or not shopping at Walmart. Also gives you some book ideas to read up on personal finance, so don't neglect those. And of course, the AARP magazine. Now, I know most of us want to spend our time staring at this face, but this isn't really going to help us enter retirement with hefty accounts. So definitely be sure to check out this Be Your Own Money Manager article and let us know what you learn. When you come back in April or when you come back in May, I know it may not be possible for you to attend each session, but let's talk about how these articles are designed to empower us. And as we wrap up, I will go back to displaying my tip. I will try to leave you with a tip every month to help you focus at least on one thing at a time. So this is a tip about savings accounts. If you have a savings account at Bank of America or at Chase or at Wells Fargo, check out how much you're earning in interest, what your interest rate is. And then do some research on some online banks and find out what they have to offer. And then come back and share that information with us. And also in the chat, if there is a topic that you felt like was omitted on the survey that we shared, please enter that in the chat and we will definitely consider incorporating that into the survey in the future. And we are at the top of the hour. I will hang around here for some questions. And I really appreciate your time and attention today, and have a great Saturday. Thank you. You can come off of mute now, I believe, if you want to.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. Good job.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Erica.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
great
you.
information.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that feedback. It was nice seeing you, Olga and Denise.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Just very quickly, if I may. I'm a financially successful 65-year-old woman, and annually, thank you, I teach a workshop for youth through a nonprofit in Scottsdale. This information, just today, I intend to be here every month, is going to be instrumental in me upping the ante for my workshop that I teach these kids. And I'll tell you something, I'll just very quickly, the one thing that the kids get the most excited about is credit score, because they've never heard about it. And how can I get that? And how can I make so you are helping me reach out to youth, get them while they're young, to get them more financially healthy. And I call it finance is fun, because it is fun to watch that bank account build up. Oh, there's hardly anything more fun than that. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you next month. You did a wonderful job.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. That's fantastic feedback. And kudos to you for working with children.
Thank you.
I work with a nonprofit, and sometimes it's hard for parents to have those conversations, especially when they haven't been the best role models. So, and you know how we are. Sometimes we're able to take information easier from outside of our family.
Yes.
So kudos to you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I get more out of it than they do, because I see the hunger in them, and I see the light bulbs going off.
Yes.
And it just makes my heart explode. So thank you for helping with that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
April.
You bet. I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Carrie, I believe you wanted to say something. You were on mute. I saw you on your camera. Maybe you're gone on to the next thing at this point. Any additional questions? Oh, come on, Carrie, come back. I saw you. You're on mute, Carrie. Carrie, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I just want to say thank you so very much. I'm out of the state of Maryland, and I just enjoyed everything. I don't know that I can attend all sessions, but my cousin and my friend invited me, and I wanted to definitely participate, and I enjoyed it and got a lot of information out of it. Believe me, no matter what age, you can be very helpful. This is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Did you hear that I graduated from the University of Maryland?
Yes, that's what I heard. That's wow. Okay.
Hey, good turn. Well, thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day. Norma, Tanya, Nicole.
Great session.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm just hanging around here for any, additional questions or to capture anything else left in the chat.
Good morning, Ms. Jackson. Yeah.
Good morning, Ms. Brenda.
How are you? Thanks for attending today. We appreciate it.
Yes, I'm wonderful. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. See? All right.
My question I was going to pose in the chat was possibly how has this past year affected you financially, or something along the lines of the effects of COVID and the furlough and the things on that line?
Yeah, I think that data is still being gathered. I would probably think that we would have some of those numbers, but maybe by our mid-year review. But especially with, stimulus rolling out and people still haven't even filed their taxes from the 2020 tax year. So, and that's where we get most of our indicators regarding income. So I was in, well, you know what? I just realized they extended the tax season till May. So we may not even have that information by mid-year. But what I do know is whenever we enter some sort of depression or recession, it sets people back 4 or 5 years financially.
Wow.
So this is why I urge people to save when they have the ability to save, and to invest and be braver sometimes than we want to be when we invest. But we need to have the information to empower us to make the best decisions for our now and our next.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
True.
That's a great question, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, have a wonderful day.
You do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy this great Arizona weather.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah. It's one thing when it's, gloom and doom and all you're hearing about is COVID spiking.
Right.
But the weather gets nice. But but in the summertime,
Yeah. And then people have gotten the shots now. And so
This is a great
session. Still a great session. So I'm pleased. And so we'll continue to do our push, for the next. We've already had somebody said, I'm going to come back, I'm going to attend all of them. So we look forward to that. So I'm hanging around too. I'm just kind of waiting. I'm seeing that the numbers are decreasing. So
people are leaving, and then we have some people who are still lingering, which I always find kind of interesting, because with me, for whatever reason, I either have no Zooms or I have 3 Zooms. So I'll spend a half a day bouncing from Zoom to Zoom.
Yeah, because you got another one coming up, don't you, in a minute? You got to get out. You got to jump.
Well, it actually started the same time this started.
It did.
Yeah, but I committed to hanging around as long as we have attendees.
Okay. Well, like I said, I think we're getting down. Me, you, and Hannah are still here. And I see Tanya is still here.
Yes. Have a great day, ladies.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think that this iPhone user is actually attending. They're just
they're connected. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to remove that person, and then
we're done.
You, Hannah, and I can just meet.
Yeah. Gotcha. And the iPhone guest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right, Hannah. Hi. What'd you think?
I thought that went great.
Did? Okay. Yeah. We were just saying that, we think the weather, had a lot to do with it, because it's beautiful out and people are getting their shots and they're out and about. But I'm still pleased with that many. We had a height of 23 people.
Right.
And we still know that, there's going to be a drop off. We understand it. And some people.
Remember yesterday, I told you I would be surprised if we had half of who registered, because what I understand is when people don't have to pay for something, it's easy to register for something that's free, right? And then you wake up and, some people may have decided to, let's go out of town this weekend. It's still kind of like spring breakers season.
Yeah.
People don't necessarily add stuff to their calendars. I also told you about, although this was branded being for Black women, as I suspected, there would be non-Black women who would attend and wonder about the focus of the data. Yep. So I'm glad that we had all those discussions so that we were mentally prepared for everything that occurred. But I'm not surprised by any of it. Yeah. I mean, we covered all of this stuff.
Yeah, we did. I'm happy. We didn't have to remove anybody. Happy with that. I think the one that did kind of come in and say about the Asian data and the Hispanic data, and like you said, if you read the description, down in the description, it does say especially for Black women. But we welcome everybody, and I do think everybody should be educated. And it still affects women, period.
Right.
Okay? And so you will still be able to get something out of this, some nuggets out of it. So Hannah, all we'll just do is we'll just make sure we're continuing to push, to push it out, and we get what we get. And ARP is still happy because they still got those 140 email addresses.
Right. Of course. Yeah. And of course, circumstances may change. We might get a rainy day. Yep. Somebody might realize that income tax refund they thought they were going to get has turned into a payment. So now they were focused on finances.
Yeah, that's true. They want some tips. Well, there was one person that did try to enter at 140. I mean, at 1040, I said absolutely not.
Oh, Yeah, right. Yeah.
1040. Are you serious? 1040? No. So I ignored it and they just dropped off. I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
A few of them did kind of surprise me as far as, when they came in on their iPads. So I don't know who they were. And that was a little sketchy for me. Mm-hmm. Most of them, if you could notice, I was checking names off as I was checking people in.
Right.
And that's fine. But like 3 of them were on iPhones and I don't know who they are. But I guess whatever. Because we still send thank yous for those who did attend.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that. And this session is recorded. So actually, I'm going to at this point stop the recording.